On this bonus edition of Locked On Clippers, going to continue to talk about the Clippers roster. Is Bradley Beal stealing minutes from young guys if he's in the rotation? Going to be talking about that and more on the bonus edition of Locked On Clips.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. My name is Darian Vaziri, also known as Dime Dropper. And right now, we're just going to continue where we left off. If you haven't checked out part one of our discussion with Justin, check that out. It was just released. Now, let's just continue, though, where we left off. So Bradley Beal, you talked about we have kind of like a cluster of guards, and it's going to be really difficult for us to figure out if there's not a consolidation trade of some sort. You said in your prediction, and honestly, I can't lie, Clipper Nation, I don't even know where I'd go here. I almost want to just not include Bradley Beal for sake of what I want, but I don't know where Ty Lue and the coaching staff's head is at. But let me just continue. Let me just follow up with what your second unit was. Do you feel good about Bradley Beal potentially getting minutes over a Jordan Miller and a Kobe Sanders and them catching DNP CDs?
So this will be an unpopular opinion, but I don't mind it to start. Like we're not trying to win a championship. Our aspirations, no pun intended, our aspirations are not that large. Do you remember like what the rotation was in game 1 of last year versus like game 82? I think the pearl clutching over what the rotation is on in the preseason or in game 1 is a bit much. Like guys are going to get traded between now and the deadline. Like Dunn, DJJ, Strus, all of these guys have value, and they'll have value to teams that matter and are trying to do something for real this season. So I would love to see Kobe Sanders in particular. I'm a huge fan of his. He's a great guy, great player with size. He shot the shit out the ball last year. Hopefully that's a real thing for him, because I think that's the differentiator. If he's an actual plus shooter at that size, he becomes a real NBA player. But like, I don't know. If he was catching DNPs, him and Miller, if they were catching DNPs game 1, I don't think it's the end of the world. I would suspect that on the totem pole, Beal gets the first crack at the second unit if it were to come to that. And I suppose that guys will be moved throughout the season, right? Like this is a transitional period. This is a transition season. And guys have to play in order to have value as far as like being traded. And so, it's almost like our vets are a showcase for other teams, and we are in asset accumulation mode. And so it wouldn't be the end of the world to me if they were catching DNPs, at least not for game 1.
Are you considering Bradley Beal one of those guys that we're trying to build up their value potentially?
Yeah, why not? I don't know how much value. I think the fact that he has a non-guarantee for his second year, or it's like it's a really small number if it's a guarantee or something like that. If he actually shows something, he could be in that camp as well. I think everything is fluid and everybody can be moved at any given moment when it comes to our vets. So, definitely include Beal in that. I don't know what his market is right now, right? If he had a market, I don't even know if he'd be back with the Clippers. I know that there were sprinkles about like Miami may be interested. I actually don't know how true that is. I feel like that was his camp putting that out there to justify him returning on that 2 for 13. That's just my opinion, but I don't think he had much of a market on a broken hip. The fact that he opted out of that tells me that like he had something lined up with the Clippers, and the Clippers just honored that. But Nevertheless, I do include Beal in that camp as far as guys who may be moved if they showcase enough for other teams.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask as a counterpoint that some fans are going to probably say. They're going to say, Justin, you
Yes.
talking about last year and how our starting lineup looked different, or our rotation looked different from game 1 to 82.
Mhm.
Well, we started 6-21 last year with whatever our starting rotation was, and we're not going to have Kawhi Leonard playing at an all NBA level to dig us out of that hole if it happens again. So, do you think we can afford to be so experimental and, everybody gets their shot and then we'll see what we do? Because I guess this is only me speaking from a I'm not high on this version of Brad anymore perspective.
Exactly.
But I don't think that Brad right now, especially because we're gonna have to work him back into the swing of things, and we're definitely gonna have those games when he first plays, if he does play, where we're like, well, he's rusty, he's coming off hip surgery, and that period. Whereas we can just hit the ground running with Jordan Miller and Kobe Sanders, who definitely were a big reason why we turned our season around last year. So I'm looking at it from they will actually help us win, despite if you get the hypothetical healthy version of Beal. He's a proven 15 points, 17 points on really efficient shooting. What would you say to that? Do we have the room to experiment for tinkering Ty this time around?
I mean, I agree with you in that regard. Like, if it were me, I'm definitely playing him over. I'm definitely playing like Kobe Sanders over Bradley Beal. Um, I feel like, and this goes back to what I was saying in episode 1. Sometimes my own personal beliefs are in conflict with what I think the team will do, and I think understanding what the team will do to me, um, I'm not justifying it, right? Like, I'm not saying like, oh, the Clippers are right for doing this, but I'm just saying, like, if they were to put Beal ahead of Sanders in the rotation, and Sanders and Miller are getting DNPs, I'm just saying, in game 1, it's not the end of the world. I think it's highly unlikely we start. I think there's no way in hell they'll start the season as badly as they did. I just think that it wouldn't be the end of the world. I wouldn't be happy with it. But again, going back to what we said in episode 1, nothing is guaranteed here. It should be noted that, like, we have a whole training camp in preseason before we come to the conclusion that Beal is going to be one of the guys in that second unit. He might not. He might play the bogey role, as Law previously mentioned. So, I mean, I wouldn't be too married on the idea of him playing, period. Right? Like, that's just. But I do think that if he shows enough in the second unit, he'll probably get that nod over Miller and Sanders to start, and that's not the end of the world to me.
Okay, I have a follow-up question, much more direct. Much more direct.
Yeah, let's go.
Are you a fan of the fact that we have Bradley Beal back on this team? Like, do you think it was necessary? Because the only person that I've heard that kind of like justified it was kind of like Law was like, man, the Clippers really like Brad. He was always in the plans. He has a great relationship with Garland. You're underestimating, like, and this is a fair point. I'll say this. He's like, you're underestimating the human element. Like, Bradley Beal is a good vet to have around. Darius Garland really likes him. My only issue comes from what I just said, which is Ty Lue's really high on him. And we're trying to develop our younger players on the bench, especially with ball handling reps. Like, what was your thought? Because you have to have, at least the fan in you has to have an immediate reaction when you first saw that news. And I mean, for me, I'll admit, first time I was negative about a Clipper move in months.
I was disappointed. I definitely was disappointed. I thought this time last year when they made the trade for John Collins and used Beal to replace Norm Powell, I thought that was fine work. I thought that made total sense. It didn't work out. I just think that the franchise is in a different place right now, and I would have loved to have seen them like let Brad Beal go and let him and just move on from him, right? Like, I think that, and just to be clear, like, he didn't just like a broken hip like has ended people's careers. Like this is not a and especially given his age, this is not just an injury that like, oh, his season ended, he'll be back in training camp and it'll be all good. Like that's where I agree with Law. Like this was a very real injury that he really does have to prove that he actually should factor into the rotation again. And I don't know that he will. Like it's a long road to get back from a broken hip. I think IT's career essentially ended because of that. So
Law mentioned that exactly with Isaiah
right.
Thomas. Yeah.
So like it's a really debilitating injury. It is a career ender for guys who get that after 30. It alters careers pre-30 and it basically ends careers after 30. So that's part of the reason why like I get the hand wringing over bringing Beal back, but I don't think that the franchise is just married to automatically putting him into the rotation. That being said, to answer that direct question, yeah, hell yeah, I was very disappointed. Once the season was over, I thought it was all for certain that he was gone. But that wasn't the case. And yeah, I was definitely disappointed.
Fair enough. Now, coming up, I want to talk about a little Rui Hachimura, John Collins swap. See your thoughts on that. Locked On Clippers is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. And right now, the regular season home runs leader is Kyle Schwarber of the Philadelphia Phillies. But you know our guy Shohei Ohtani is not that far behind to bet on a home run. But Yordan Alvarez, Matt Olson are bringing up the rear right after Kyle Schwarber, even above Shohei. So those are some good bets right now for who could hit a daily dinger. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. All right, so let's talk about Rui Hachimura, man. What do you think about bringing him in, losing John Collins? They have a lot of the same strengths, a little bit different players, but a lot of the same strengths and a lot of the same weaknesses to some degree as well. Where are you at with picking up Rui this offseason from the Lakers?
Greatest playoff 3-point shooter of all time, baby. That's what.
Is he by percentage?
Yeah, this is a GOAT right here, man. Yeah, I thought it was great work. I thought it was great. I thought that was a great value signing, especially getting that team option for him. He's another guy that again he don't get too comfortable. He may be somebody that's moved between now and the deadline. His deal is very movable. I think that, to your point, him and John Collins have a lot of similarities. And that actually is a little bit disappointing in regards to John Collins, because there's a level of physicality that you just wish John Collins would display that wasn't there. But at that price point, I think it was an awesome signing from the Clippers. That's a good bit of work. He's going to space the floor. You know what you're getting from him. He'll shoot over the top of mismatches. You'll occasionally get some defensive lapses. Not the greatest defender. He's not going to provide much else. But at that price, getting a knockdown shooter at that size who can shoot over the top of mismatches should fit in well next to Garland. So I'm a fan.
And a likable international player that always brings some kind of fanfare.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's already started. It's literally already started, you know.
So let me ask you this, just to go in more depth about the John Collins thing, right? We were really hyped as a fan base when we got John Collins to kind of serve as that big power forward. Some people were kind of comparing him and saying, oh, he's going to be our PJ Washington. He's going to be our Aaron Gordon. And I think what really stood out to me that made it so that I cannot say he's our PJ Washington or our Aaron Gordon he wasn't nearly as good of a just one-on-one defender as those guys. Aaron Gordon literally was guarding KD and holding him to really tough shots in that 2023 second round en route to the Nuggets winning a championship. John Collins was struggling against the likes of DeAnthony Melton in the play-in game. And that's no disrespect, USC, shout out, fight on. But it's just, he wasn't a guy that you could rely on to really get stops, JC. And he also didn't give us a lot of those intangibles that we looked for. La Murray does this thing that he does every summer, the epitome games, where he picks one game from each team to kind of, note their deficiency of why they didn't make the playoffs, or why their strength of why they made the playoffs. And since we didn't make the playoffs, he talked about our lack of defensive rebounding. And he chose that one game in Houston where Nicholas Batum stepped over the line as the example of that game. In that game, we got killed on the glass. JC had 0 rebound. One rebound. Something like that. So what would you say about the JC experience? Like, obviously, I think he had some really good moments for us as well. But do you think that, the idea of John Collins was a lot better than the reality of John Collins, and you're okay with seeing him go?
Yeah, everything you said was like 1000% literally my exact feelings. I remember early in the season watching JC, and I think I tweeted something like, I can't believe how much of like a space cadet he is as a defender. Like, this dude, I mean, his feet are like in quicksand. He's late to catch on to things. He is a great teammate. Like, people like him, and that does matter. But like, the lack of rebounding just hurts, man. Like, it's such a downer, along with the defense. I had some Utah Jazz beat writers like DM me, like, yeah, he literally is this bad. Like, it's really bad. The shooting was a plus, right? Like, he turns out he's a really good floor spacer, finisher at the rim. But yeah, you got what you got with him, and more importantly, what you didn't get is what you didn't get. Like, that from that position, especially, is kind of fatal, right? It really limited what we could have done with him, especially if we wanted to like try to be like small ball 5 with him. I wish we could have seen that a little bit more, but I'm not optimistic about that because of the lack of physicality and rebounding. So I echo the exact same sentiments. I wouldn't have minded him coming back to this iteration of the Clippers, especially with the expectations being like much lower. But I didn't mind seeing him go. And like, good luck to the Pistons.
Yeah, I'm okay with taking in Rui Hachimura for $3 million less per year. I also think that Rui, in terms of just putting the ball in the basket, will be more consistent. Like JC, he was like on one end of the spectrum when we were 6-21, and it's part of the reason we were 6-21. Like, he wasn't hitting shots.
I was gonna say he could not make a shot.
And then when he was shooting lights out, it directly correlated with our turnaround. Like, he was, I kept calling him the X factor last season because I felt like when he played well, we were a totally different team. But I feel like Rui will give us more of a baseline of consistency when it comes to knocking down shots, and even, throwing it to him in the mid post and seeing if he can get something off over a smaller guy, and, attacking closeouts and pulling up in the mid range. I think he can give us that a lot more consistently. Now, when we talk about the second unit, I want to ask you about the unit that you mentioned, right? Wagler, Beal, DJ, Strus, Ijax. Pretty undersized, but also you don't have like a really small player in there. So you have a bunch of guys around, 6'4" to 6'6" in there, and a couple that can defend. But that unit is going to be run with Keaton, Wagler, and if that's let's just say we don't stagger Ingram and Garland, and we have all 5 of those guys out there at once, kind of led by Wagler and Beal. How do you feel about that kind of unit, and just that 10-man rotation that you laid out?
Not the best. Not the best. Like, Beal and Wagler together, just I don't feel confident from a defensive point of attack sort of thing.
But you would have DJ and Max Strus out there.
Yeah, I mean, and hopefully they cover up. But you can only do so much when you have that many, like when you have those two liabilities there. And
Would you call them liabilities? Because what I'll say is I think Beal was average defensively last year when we had him. I don't think he was. I think he was honestly worse offensively in the time that we had him because he was just like rusty and missing shots.
I mean, what did we really see? Like he
Right.
did. I'll give him credit. He broke his hip taking a charge. So like credit to him. I'm not confident that Beal, fresh off of a new hip, will be able to defend at a even league average level. And then the rim protection is what it is with Ajax there. Obviously, like Yannick will be there at some point, which will help. But it's not a unit that I'm thinking much of from a defensive point of view. But I will say that I feel better about the second unit than I did like last week. Strus helps a lot in that regard. And to what you alluded to, we're not. I shouldn't say that because we don't know. Ty Lue is definitely liable to go 5 in, 5 out. But I would imagine that we will see a hybrid. Yeah, we'll be staggering a bit. So I would imagine that we should be good in that regard.
My last question before we move on to something I've always wanted to talk to you about is let's just say hypothetically, this is the roster we make no trades. Garland and Ingram both play anywhere between 65 to 70 games.
Wow. Okay.
That'd be great, obviously. I would think. What kind of team are we? Like when people ask you, how do you think the Clippers are going to be this year, Justin? I'm guessing you say like, yeah, pretty mediocre. We could be better than people expect. But what's your if you're making standings predictions, if someone's asking you to do that right now, where are you putting us?
9 to 12. 9 to 12.
Same.
I if you told me Garland was going to play that many games and that Brandon Ingram will play that many games, I think they're going to make the play-in. If there's one thing that Ty Lue has shown in his tenure as a Clipper head coach is his ability to handle these in between rosters. It's almost like he is best when he doesn't have the expectation of a championship. It reminds me of like 21-22 when Kawhi missed that entire season and PG played 34 games and they still managed to they lost in the play-in, but they could have made the playoffs. So I think this team, as long as help provided, they should be better than expected. And I wouldn't be surprised if they slid into the playoffs through the plan. But I think this definitely has a play-in potential. And if you get to the play-in, who knows? You know, like when we lost to Brandon Ingram in the play-in, when we were like way better. I was at that game too.
He cooked us. So was I. He cooked us that game.
Yeah, man. I still don't forgive Ty Lue for how he handled Zoo in that game, but that shit still burns me. But like, to answer your question, though, if you gave me the health of Darius Garland in particular, I think I'm not gonna say the sky is the limit, but we have a ceiling of being much better than expected. That's a guy who is. You give him the keys. You give me good health with him. That's a 24-8. Flirting with like 48, 40, 88 kind of guy. Like I think really highly of him as an offensive hub for a team, right? Like he was the engine on that 60-win Cavs team, you know. 24
points a game. You think he'll average that?
If you gave me that health, I don't. Why wouldn't he? What was it? How much did he average with the Clippers last year? Like.
He averaged 20 last year with us, 19.9 to be exact, 20 points, 6 assists. But yeah, I mean, 24-8 would be great.
Yeah, and like there's no Kawhi Leonard on this team anymore. He's going to be featured more on ball reps. And for a while there, he was over 20 a game with us. He kind of tanked towards the end of the season. And, you know, per his own words, he's playing on like 1 foot or something that he said to that effect.
9 toes or something.
Yeah. So hopefully he has all his toes right by game 1. So we if you gave me 65, 70 games of healthy Darius Garland on this team, 23, 24 points a game is not out of the question, in my opinion. Especially they want
Go
him to
ahead.
shoot, especially with
Yeah.
the amount of threes they want him to shoot. And it's like there's nobody that's going to take the ball out of his hands, at least not this season.
Yeah, the most points he's ever averaged in a season was 21.7 in 2021-22. That was the season right before they got Donovan Mitchell. So we'll see. Now, before we end the show, coming up, we're going to talk about the Ty Lue conversation, the never-ending Ty Lue conversation amongst Clipper fans. All right, so to end the show, Ty Lue. So Ty Lue and most NBA coaches are just quite the polarizing figures amongst their fan base because, and it's not just, honestly, it's not just in the NBA, but I would argue that the NBA and basketball, and I'm saying this as someone who coaches at much lower levels, is the sport where coaching matters a lot less than a lot of people think. Like when it comes to NFL and football, and you have to constantly call plays. When it comes to like soccer, you got to pick the formations and the tactics. And then in baseball, all the decisions with pitching and stuff like that. In basketball, a lot of times, you got Kawhi Leonard on your team, you got a chance. You don't have him, you don't have a chance. And a lot of the teams run a lot of the same stuff. However, Ty Lue, I've had a lot of episodes over the years, a lot of them, especially post game, where people are saying how Ty Lue is not a good enough coach. Now, I know you're one of the first accounts that when I first got on Twitter was actually breaking down some of the film and some of the plays that Ty Lue allegedly does not call, right?
Right.
I want you to let me know where you are at, because you've actually surprisingly called him out at times in this show about certain things you disagreed with. But where are you at with how good of a coach Ty Lue is, how much blame fans put on him for our failures, and just that whole conversation? Because I know you had it on Twitter a lot.
Well, we're ending the show with a bang, right? This is a banger of an ending right here. There's nothing that incites Clipper fans more than a conversation about Ty Lue. Maybe Pablo Torre at this point, but if not for Pablo Torre, I think you can get him riled up with Ty Lue. So I just man, the thing about coaching, and you're a coach in real life. So imagine if someone only saw your games, not the practices, not the conversations that you have on like non-game days with these players, with their families, and they just only criticize what they actually saw. What would be your takeaway on that?
So to some extent, some of the parents don't know what goes on in practice. I mean, of course, they probably hear from the kids themselves, so you probably get a better lens. But yeah, they would probably be confused a little bit at some of my decisions because practice is where it happens, man.
Exactly. So the thing that I land on is that not that Ty Lue is above criticism. I will criticize him. I criticize him all the time, which is actually different from the reputation that I have on Clippers Twitter. I carry water, and I'm like the positive. I don't ever criticize Ty Lue, which couldn't be further from the truth.
That's because the Clippers are sliding you them checks, according to Twitter.
Bruh, that still is like the most funniest thing of all time. Like, if can somebody give me these checks, please? Like shit. Like my rent is not cheap. I would love to like get paid for this shit, bro. This game is just free. But to answer your question, the thing about coaching for me is that like I try and come from a place of understanding because I am literally not there. Ty Lue, for whatever you think, is literally one of the only 30. There's only 30 NBA coaches in the entire world. So he literally is one of the best coaches in the world who's with this team every single day. So even if there's a decision that I disagree with, I try and come to it from a place of understanding. And 9 times out of 10, I do get it. I see what he's saying. Like, I'll give you a prime example. The lineup change that we didn't make at the end of game 4 against Denver in the playoffs, right? I was yelling. I was there and I'm yelling, hey, take Norm out now. Let's get bigger. Let's get bigger right here, right now. And he didn't do it. But his rationale was that these guys got us back into the game and guys are stiff and shit. And like, that makes total sense, bro. Like I don't agree with the decision. I wouldn't have went about it that way, but I do get it. I understand it. And when you understand a decision that you don't agree with, it sounds like cope and it sounds like you're siding with him. And it's just coaching is way more nuanced than that. And even at the NBA level, coaching has way more to do with how your relationship with players, how you deliver the bad news. Frank has a quote that he says Ty Lue is the greatest at hitting without leaving a bruise. And that is a very real skill that's necessary at the NBA level as a head coach. And so they're just the hardest people to criticize for me. Like, because without being there, without seeing the habits of guys, it's just really hard to create, oh, this guy can't coach. This guy needs to be fired. Based on what? Like, you know what I mean? So like, I can only go by what other coaches say about these guys, what players say about these guys, what the front office says about these guys. And there's a little bit of like what I see with my own eyes. And that amounts to a really good coach who runs really great stuff, especially out of timeouts. And yeah, it hasn't worked out for him yet here with the Clippers, but he's been a fine coach.
Now, two questions I was going to follow up with. One, do you believe just because these guys have their NBA spots that they're all, I wouldn't say good coaches, because yes, you're probably a good coach if you're an NBA coach, right, but you all feel like they're exempt from criticism from the average fans like us?
Are they exempt? No, but I do think that,
like, do we have no right to criticize them because we're lower on the scale of basketball? Yeah.
I mean, no, I criticize coaches. So like, no, you're not exempt for criticism, but I think your criticism needs to come with a level of understanding for what you're criticizing, right? Okay. Like, if I'm criticizing, I'm coming from a point of like, I understand that I'm not there. I'm not as smart as Ty Lue. So like, yeah, I may not agree with something and I'm going to be vocal about it, but I'm not going to call for somebody's job. That's not my get down.
And then the last one, because you mentioned specific decisions from Ty Lue. Yeah, you mentioned specific decisions, like the end of game 4 or whatever. But honestly, we can nitpick all those all day long. The biggest criticism that sometimes I have with the comment section, and I want you to end it with this: Ty Lue doesn't run plays. And
well, first, that's not true. It's literally not true. They run plays all the time. But part of, and this goes back to the conversation, like part of being a coach is not micromanaging. You cannot micromanage pros, bro. Like they don't respond well to that. You know what I'm saying? So it's really hard. There's a balance that needs to be had, right? You're calling a set, but you don't want to call a set every time down. Like oftentimes you'll hear coaches talk about flow, get into your 21 series on the sideline or on the wing, like get a step up screen going, get some back screen going. Like these are professionals. They don't need to be micromanaged every time.
This is not
down. Right. Like we'll get into like horns or something and then we'll play off of it. Occasionally, yes, when there's a dead ball, Ty Lue will call a play, and he literally does. It happens all the time, every single game. Is he going to call a play every time down? No. But like, especially when you have a player like Kawhi Leonard, who's a demon in isolation, why would you? Right? Like that's not how the game is played. So I'll end it with this. If you think Tyronn Lue doesn't run plays, you fundamentally, with respect, you don't know what you're watching. And so often the NBA game is about feel. Like you're not supposed the Knicks just won a championship. I guarantee you they if you watch the series, Mike Brown is not calling a play every single day. They're doing 5-out stuff, allowing Karl Anthony Towns to get into his dribble pitch into like handoffs and things like that. And it's just, to your point, read and react. So like, yeah, they call plays, but like Ty Lue, like most of the NBA, they're not calling plays every time down. And that has a lot to do with the personnel on the roster.
Beautiful explanation. You can follow Justin at LA. It's at LA Clippers Film still.
Yeah.
There we go, man. Appreciate the time, man. 2 episodes, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed. Justin, thank you for helping me reach, I think this is 5 or 6 episodes for the week. We love to see it in August in the dog days, man. It was a pleasure to have you on for the first time. And of course, you can follow me at DimeDropper_LA, DimeDropper Pod on Instagram and TikTok. My backup account is now at DimeDropper Pod on Twitter. And yeah. Dime Dropper on YouTube and Locked On Clippers on YouTube. Keep subscribing. Keep letting us know what you thought of the discussion. Go Clippers.